All right, welcome to part two, when A is not 1. So remember, when you are factoring when A is not 1, that's when you do the T-chart, but then you bust up the B's and factor by grouping and all of that jazz, okay? So we're going to refresh your memory on that. So first off, you have to make sure, again, that everything is on the left side. So first off, I need to get rid of this 3 by doing the opposite of a 3, which is a negative 3. So if I minus 3 on the right side, I'm going to do it under its like term, which would be this 9. So now I'll have 0. And then 9 minus 3 is going to be a 6. And so I can bring down 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. Okay? So now I've got my right side equal to 0. So now I can do factoring, which is when you're going to multiply a times c, which is going to be a 12. And then your b term is going to go on the right side. So now you're going to list the factors of 12. So 2 times 6, 3 times 4. And notice that 3 plus 4 does give you 7. Okay. Now, again, this is not the shortcut because we do not have an a as a 1. So this 3 and the 4 are going to replace your middle term because you're going to bust up the b's. And again, you're going to add x's with them because the 7x had an x. And then you bring down your last term, and you bring down your first term. Okay, put pluses there. So now once you've got 4 terms, that means you can factor by grouping. So I'm going to group my first 2 and my last 2. So again, you're going to find the GCF of a 2 and a 3, which is just a 1. And again, you can always take out 1x. Divide to see what's in the middle. 2 divided by 1 is a 2, and we need an x to get to x squared. 3 divided by 1 is a 3, and we don't need any x terms with that. Remember, the shortcut is to rewrite your parentheses, 2x plus 3, and to just divide 6 and 3 to find your middle term. So 6 divided by 3 is a 2. I can double check that. That 4 divided by 2 is a 2 as well. So we're going to write our final answer as 1x plus 2 in one parenthesis and 2x plus 3 in the other. Okay, so now I'm factored. So now I can use my zero product property. So I can set each of these equal to 0 to find the solution. Okay, so one of your equations, I'm just going to change this to x plus 2 equals 0 is 1. And then 2x plus 3 equals 0 is your other equation. Okay, so solve each of those, and so x equals negative 2 is one solution, and then negative 3 divided by 2, x equals, you can leave that as negative 3 over 2, or if you wanted to make it negative 1.5, either way would be right. Okay. So negative 2 and then negative 1.5 are your solutions to that quadratic equation, okay? So again, make sure everything is on the left side, so you have equals 0, and then you're going to do your T-chart, factor by grouping, and then just set each parenthesis equal to 0, okay? So why don't you try this one on your own, and then we'll go over the answer. All right, so the first thing you had to do was subtract 3 right under its like term here. So then you can have 0 on this side, and then negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. So once everything is on the same side, you're going to factor by multiplying a times c. So 3 times negative 4 is negative 12, and bring over your b term. You're going to list all the factors of 12, and this is tricky, so you have to see when can you multiply to get a negative, is when one of them is negative. So you had to put the negative with the 2, because negative 2 plus 6 is a positive 4. So negative 2 and 6 were your factors that worked. So again, those are going to replace this middle term, and you're going to add x's with them. And then you bring down your first term and bring down your last term. So I rewrote that right here. So now you have 4 terms, so you can factor by grouping. So find the GCF of a 3 and a 2, which this is a 1. And then you can always take out an x. Divide to find the inside parenthesis. You're going to rewrite the parenthesis over here and divide negative 4 by negative 2 to get a positive 2. Double check that 6 divided by 3 is a positive 2. So again, you're going to write these two outside terms in their own parenthesis. I just made it x plus 2, and then I did 3x minus 2 in its own. The last step is to set them equal to 0. And so I did that here and got negative 2. Over here I had 3x minus 2 equals 0. I added 2 and then divided by 3, so I got 2/3, and I would leave it as a fraction. Okay? So again, these are the hardest problems, then it's as hard as they get. It's not really that challenging, it's just a whole lot of work, okay? So we're going to try one more. And it's just that I need to make sure everything is on its same side. So I need to get rid of a negative 6 by adding 6 and adding 6. I can't combine like terms because they're all different, so I'm just going to rewrite them as 2x squared minus 7x plus 6 equals 0. So now I can factor by group, or factor by t-chart. So 2 times 6, which is a 12, and then negative 7. So list the factors of 12 again, 3 times 4 and 2 times 6. So when can you multiply and get a positive but add and get a negative is when they're both negative. So I need to make both of these numbers negative because negative 3 plus negative 4 is negative 7. So those are going to replace your middle terms. So negative 3 and negative 4 are going to go in the middle. We are going to add x's with them again. And then lastly, you bring down your last term and your first term. Okay, so now that we have 4 terms, we're going to factor by grouping. GCF of a 2 and a 3 is a 1. Always take out an x. Divide to find the middle, so 2 divided by 1 is 2. We need an x. And then negative 3 divided by 1 is negative 3. Rewrite your parenthesis and divide 6 divided by negative 3, which is negative 2. Double check that negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Rewrite your final parenthesis x minus 2, 2x minus 3. So now I can solve them by setting them equal to 0. So one equation is x minus 2 equals 0. The other equation is 2x minus 3 equals 0. Solve each of those. So x is a 2. And then add 3. 2x equals 3. Divide by 2. So x equals 1.5, or you could leave that as 3 over 2. Okay? So a lot of work, but you guys can do it. So again, make sure everything is on the same side. So lastly, you try this problem over here. Alright, so the first thing you had to do was add 3 to both sides. Again, it did not have a like term, so you just rewrite it. Now, since it's in standard form, you can multiply. So 2 times 3 is a 6. B term goes in the t-chart on the right side. List the factors of 6 that will add to a 5, which are 3 and 2. So 3 and 2 are going to replace your middle terms. Put x's with them. Bring down your last number, bring down your first number. Factor by grouping. So GCF of a 2 and a 3 is a 1. Always take out an x. Parentheses, divide to see what's on the inside. Rewrite the parenthesis when you get it. Divide 3 divided by 3 to get a 1. Double check it. 2 divided by 2 is a 1. Rewrite your problem as x plus 1, 2x plus 3. So once you've got it factored, last step is just set them equal to 0 and solve each equation, and you would get negative 1 and negative 3 over 2, or negative 1.5. Okay? So that is how you do the hardest of the hardest, solving factoring quadratics. I know it's a lot of work, but you guys can do it. I have faith in you. So you're more than welcome to work on IXL. I do have some practice whodunit sheets, but it's up to you how you practice. Thanks for watching.